Let's discuss NEO stock today. What's happening? We should definitely look at volatility. As we can see, it has been increasing sharply. We must also touch on the volatility smile, which is sending interesting signals. Let's consider the support levels in options. I will also show you a market forecast. But let's start from the beginning. NEO stock has grown by 63% over the past month, which is quite a significant result. Then it fell by 20%, and now it is starting to rise again. I remind you that the company's report is due very soon. Let's take a look at its financial indicators and try to analyze this report as well. Let's look at the volatility. As we can see, volatility ranges from 85 to 110%. As we understand, the volatility varies depending on the expiration dates. The increase in volatility is partly due to the upcoming report in a week. Now let's look at the volatility smile. What is happening here? As we can see, the volatility for near strikes is rising in both directions, upward and downward. This means that investors are factoring in both the possibility of a decrease and an increase in the stock price. If we look at longer expiration dates, the volatility increases only towards a decrease in the stock price. This is also a normal situation because traders hedge their risks. Therefore, put options are more expensive than call options. This is absolutely normal. Now let's look at historical and implied volatility. As we can see, the white line represents implied volatility, and the gray line represents historical volatility. Currently, implied volatility is above its historical values. I remind you that volatility always returns to its historical values. What does this mean? This means that sooner or later, volatility will decrease. I remind you that you can trade not only the stock itself, but also the volatility. We do not know which way the stock will go. In fact, stock movements are very complex, but volatility movements are much simpler because volatility always returns to its historical values. And now I will show you how this can be done. Artificial intelligence can assist us here. We can take a strategy for mid-August, assuming that volatility will, for example, decrease by 20%. Let's see what AI has calculated for us. As we can see, there are various strategies with different probabilities of profit. We'll consider one of these strategies. We are suggested to sell a put option with a $5 strike price for August and sell a call option with a $6 strike price, also for August. This is a fairly standard strategy. However, it comes with unlimited risk. This complex strategy is not suitable for everyone, as it exclusively plays on the decrease in volatility. Essentially, we are betting that the stock will remain within this range. Of course, there are risks of breaking this range, especially after the earnings report. If the stock falls below $5 or rises above $6, we could start incurring losses. Therefore, this position needs to be managed carefully. I am showing it purely for illustrative purposes to demonstrate how volatility can be traded. I am not recommending that you open this strategy. We have covered historical and implied volatility. Now let's look at the support levels. What is happening here? As we can see, there is a significant volume of open interest at the $5 and $5.50 zero. These are call options. The stock is currently rising above $5 and approaching $5.50. Is our next support level. We have struggled to break past the $5 level for a long time, but today, the $5 support has been overcome. The next level is $5.50 zero. Let's examine this level. After that, we have $6 and beyond that, there are practically no support or resistance levels. Consequently, the stock could start rising much faster. However, this is based on the current date, as the closest significant date is May 31st. A large volume is concentrated on this date. This will undoubtedly change next week, and we might see new resistance levels around $6 or even $7. We will continue to observe this, but again, the earnings report could help us overcome all these levels. If the earnings report is good, this resistance level will undoubtedly be broken. At that point, a more rapid upward movement may begin due to a gamma squeeze. Let me remind you how gamma squeeze and market makers work. When traders buy call options, market makers sell those call options. To avoid unlimited risk, market makers hedge their sold call options by buying the underlying stock. They purchase the stock according to the delta. The higher the stock price, the higher the delta. The higher the delta, the more stock they need to buy. The more stock the market maker buys, the higher the stock price. This creates a feedback loop where the higher the stock price, the higher the delta, leading to more stock purchases. This so-called circular effect can cause the stock to rise very quickly. Additionally, short covering can further drive the stock price up, potentially to $10. However, many conditions need to be met for this to happen, and this is just a hypothesis for now. Now let's look at the 3D volatility. Here we have all the information concentrated regarding expiration dates and strike prices. I always try to show you this information so you can see the whole picture. As usual, I will also show you an interesting strategy aimed at a sharp movement in the stock, either up or down. In this case, we have a small loss of around $50 if the stock remains between $4 and $7. However, if the stock moves sharply in either direction, we start to make a profit, and the higher the stock rises, the greater our profit. Here, our profit is unlimited because we have bought options. The same applies if the stock starts to fall sharply. This strategy bets on a sharp rise or fall in the stock. In reality, There are many strategies you can use. The most important thing is proper position management, which I always emphasize. Now let's return to the stock itself. I remind you of my philosophy. I have no idea which way the stock will go. I don't know how to predict price movements. My main goal is effective position management. As I've already shown you, I simply create strategies through options, adjust them, and earn in any case. If the stock, for example, starts to rise a bit, I slightly change the configuration of the strategy and continue to make a profit. It's very interesting to combine and create strategies, and I recommend everyone to try this. Now let's look at the market forecast. What does the market predict? Here we have all the information on options and derivatives. Let's look at the forecast for mid-August. It shows a high probability that the stock will be between $4 and $6. The probability is almost 50%, meaning the market believes we will most likely stay within this range. However, if we look at a longer term, for example, November, the highest probability is that the stock will be between $4 and $5. Again, I remind you that the market considers all current information. Of course, if the earnings report comes out, it could completely change the configuration, and the market will adjust along with the stock movement. If the report is good, the stock may rise and possibly even reach $10 for some time. I can certainly see this scenario happening, and the market will change its outlook accordingly. In general, if you think about it, the stock has a lot of potential. If you are a long-term investor and believe in this company, there is no point in rushing to sell or buy the stock frequently. It doesn't make much difference whether you buy it at $5 or $4 if you expect the stock to reach $50, $60. At least if you are a long-term investor and believe in this, and if you are ready to hold the stock for the next 5 to 10 years, there's nothing to worry about. The stock has considerable profit potential, provided that the most severe risks do not materialize and the electric vehicle industry continues to develop. I also remind you that I have started a new investment experiment, a portfolio from scratch. Here I will show how I invest, which stocks I will buy, which ones I won't, how my portfolio will be structured, and my strategy. The first video in this series is already recorded, and I recommend everyone to watch it. Good luck to everyone.